أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. يا بني إسرائيل اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم وأوفوا بعهدي أوف بعهدكم وإياي فارهبون وآمنوا بما أنزلت مصدقا لما معكم ولا تكونوا أول كافر به ولا تشتروا بآياتي قليلا ولا تشتروا بآياتي ثمنا قليلا وإياي فاتقون ولا تلبسوا الحق بالباطل وتكتموا الحق وأنتم تعلمون وأقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة واركعوا مع الراكعين أتأمرون الناس بالبر وتنسون أنفسكم وأنتم تتلون الكتاب أفلا تعقلون أتأمرون الناس بالبر وتنسون أنفسكم وأنتم تتلون الكتاب أفلا تعقلون واستعينوا بالصبر والصلاة وإنها لكبيرة إلا على الخاشعين الذين يظنون أنهم ملاقو ربهم وأنهم إليه راجعون. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The most important matter for any human being, for them to live and survive and to continue and to move on, is to know that there's something better. No human being can survive and live if they feel this is it, and it's going to get worse, and nothing will get better, right? So the reality of the whole creation, first and foremost, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the creation in such a way that it always gets better. It always improves, right? And that's the nature of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the creation, right? If there's drought, the drought ends eventually. If there's famine, the famine eventually ends, right? So the whole creation moves on, and the reason it moves on is because there's something always better that is brought forth by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As for the Muslim, it doesn't matter what we go through. If we have certainty in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if we have certainty that there's a coming life, and if you have certainty that there's not only a coming life but there's Jannah, then we have nothing to worry about. Why? Because firstly, whoever you are missing, be it whoever has passed away, be it your mom, be it your father, be it your grandmother, be it your grandfather, be it your uncle, be it your brother, whoever they may be, firstly, you will meet them again. So this is not the end of meeting, right? And secondly, most likely, inshallah, they will be with you in Jannah. So you will be eternally, right, in a place where there is where there is luxury and delights, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, he says, yeah, where there's no hunger, there is no thirst, there's whatever you will, whatever you wish, that you'll be receiving in Jannah, whatever you wish. So with that person, you'll be enjoying in Jannah whatever you wish. So you as a human being, your grief and your sadness and sorrows that you're feeling right now, it will be removed. It will be not removed, not simply by a thought process or a mindset or even a belief. It will be actually removed when you see them on the Qiyamah day, when you receive the reward, the book on the right hand, and then when you eventually enter into Jannah with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, in Jannah, all of this sadness will be, grieving and sadness will be removed actually, not simply through a theory or a mindset or even a belief. In that verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Salah specifically, but in other verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about dhikr. In other verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about being with the believers. So there's different verses that speak about how to remove that grievedness and sadness and sorrow, and how to ground yourself with patience. There are many ways to ground yourself through patience. Number one, and that's the internal one. Number one is to have yaqeen, and not simply to have a mindset, is to have yaqeen, what I said in previously, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove your sadness and griefs. He will remove it, and it will be practical and tangible. You will, with your own two eyes, you will witness your brother, your mother, your father, or your grandfather, your grandmother. You will see them with your own eyes. Yeah? So he will practically remove the sadness and grief that you're going through. That's guaranteed. It's certain it will happen. Yeah. So that belief has to be there in your heart. And then second belief is internal, is that you have to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Arhamur Rahimin, is Akram al-Akramin, is Ajwad al-Ajwadin. Yani you are not more loving to your fellow family, people you love. You are not more loving than him, Jalla wa ala. He loves them more than you. It's his creation, right? You love your own creation more than anyone else, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves them more than you. And thereby, they have gone to a better place. They are going to their creator who loves them more than you, right? So you have to have yaqeen therein that doesn't matter how much I love them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves them with certainty more than myself. So he's taking care of them. And if there is any sins that they did or their shortcomings, it's only Allah who can forgive them and then reward them, and not me. I cannot make them happy. I cannot give them the pleasures they are seeking and yearning for. I cannot give them the happiness they are seeking and yearning for. So it's that yaqeen again, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves them more than myself. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can also fulfill their needs and their yearnings, not myself. So they're going to a better place to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So once you have those two, then when you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then when you pray, then when you do dhikr, right? Then when you give sadaqat, right? It will be meaningful and profound and relaxing, and you can breathe in a content manner, not only for themselves, right, but also for yourself. Also for yourself, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? If I go through something similar, there's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't have to worry about my children. I don't have to worry about my parents. I don't have to worry about my loved ones. I am going to someone better, and I am leaving them to someone better, right? So the internal certainty belief, which is certain, which is reality, right? Whether you believe in it or not, it's reality. Like Allah does love your parents more than you. Allah loves your brothers and sisters more than you. Allah loves anyone that you love more than you. And not only that, but Allah can only fulfill their wishes more than you. Whatever they wish, or however they wish to be happy, Allah can fulfill it more than you, and you can't fulfill that. So once you acknowledge that, and then you externalize that by making dua, by giving sadaqat, by praying, right? Then you begin to slowly solidify that relaxation, that contentment. As for Salah, why specifically Salah was mentioned specifically in this verse, is because if you go through such a severe trial, yeah, where your thought processes are in all over the place, then Salah, because it has few requirements, it makes you go through a process of journey by which you can slowly begin to calm yourself, become collected, and then control your emotions. So, for example, it has wudu, it has facing the qibla, it has recitation, where you can prolong the recitation, and that's the ones when the hadith said about Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, amrun, if severe trial came upon Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it's very, very dangerous or immediate, he is to flee to Salah. Is to flee to Salah. What does that mean? Does it mean that he's just pray 2 rakah, 2 rakah, 2 rakah? Or does it mean that he's to stand long and recite the Quran? It means he's to stand long in prayer and recite the Quran. So when you say Allahu Akbar and you stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you recite and you prolong the Salah, the recitation. If you don't know long surahs, you can open the Mus'haf. It's 2 rakah nafil Salah. You can open the Mus'haf and you can recite from the Mus'haf. If you can't even do that, just prolong the standing as long as you can. Then go to ruku', prolong the ruku' as long as you can. Go to sujood, prolong the sujood as long as you can. Make dua in the sujood. Get up, do the same thing, prolong it. In that whole process, you are talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're communicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your du'as, in your pains, in your agonies, in your miseries, in your sadness, in your sorrows, in your griefs, in your trauma, in your trial that you're going through, in your crisis you're going through. You're speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And just by that speaking and calling him as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the reality is he's the source of this trial, he's the source of this issue, he's the source. It came through him. He had to give the permission. He had to go through his court. So it came through him. So he's the one, if he doesn't elevate it, he's the one who can only elevate it. If he doesn't elevate it, he will, because you're calling him, he will give you contentment therein. What does that contentment mean? It means that whatever will happen to you, you or whoever's going through this trial with you, you and them will be rewarded for eternity for this trial you're going through in quality and weight for eternity in Jannah. It's not necessarily negative, it's reality, it's part of the fitrah. It's part of the fitrah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this fear makes us human being. This sadness makes us human being. This feeling of grief makes us human being. There's nothing wrong with that. It becomes wrong when you do not take the means to find contentment therein. Then it becomes wrong. So in that sadness, in the grief, right, you need to find contentment. Contentment through what? What we just said, that they are going to a being who loves them more than I do. They are going to a being who they will ask and they will request for their wishes and yearnings, and only he can fulfill and he can give. I can't make those people happy. I can't make them delightful and joyful. Only Allah can. So knowing these two, and then knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will eventually remove the sadness and sorrows and griefs, whoever is going through. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala negates it completely. لا تخافون, you will not have any fear. ولا تحزنون, you will not have any sadness. He completely negates sadness and fear. Right? he also completely negates remembering sadness and grief and fear in dunya life. He negates it. You will not even remember that you actually went through any sadness, you actually went through any grief, you actually went through any pains and any agonies and any miseries. Think of the worst person that's going through the worst of the issues. Think of the worst person: disabled, blind, deaf, war zone. The worst case scenario. The Messenger ﷺ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it to the Messenger ﷺ, that this individual will be placed in the Jannah for a mini moment, mini moment in Jannah. He'll be placed in Jannah. And then he will be asked, but he or she will be asked, did you ever go through any pain, any agony, any sadness, any sorrow, any griefs? And he will say, La ya Rab. Now, that utterance of La ya Rab will come from him or her. Allah now placed that in his heart, in his mind, to say, no, he remembers the pain and griefs and sadness, and then still is to please Allah, is saying, no, I can't remember. No. He will forget. The human being will actually forget the pain and agonies and misery and the humiliation that he or she went through in this. And this individual is the worst. Because you can think of Sumayya, for example. Yeah. You can worst people who are boiled in water, for example, hot water. People who were ironed to 2 pieces by a saw. Worst people, they will say, La ya Rab, I never went through any, I can't remember. Now this is reality, this will happen. So people in this dunya who are living the worst situations, they will be placed in Jannah for a moment, and then they'll be taken out and asked, can you remember anything of pain and agony? They'll say, La ya Rab. Now, when that happens, because they went through so much difficulty in this dunya, Allah will put them in Jannah for a moment, and then bring them out back on the Qiyamah day. So now their grief, sadness is gone. They're roaming around on the Qiyamah day without no sadness, without no grief, because they've seen Jannah now. For them now, all is to do is for them to get the book on the right hand and then enter into Jannah. Khalas. Yeah. So nothing to worry about for Muslims. Nothing to worry about for the Muslims. Whatever sadness and sorrows and griefs you're going through, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will actualize your happiness and delight and pleasures, inshallah ta'ala, in this dunya life, first and foremost, and then in the coming life. So it's not negative to feel grief and sadness and sorrows. It's all fine, but you need to find contentment therein through the process that I just mentioned. That first, let me summarize again. Allah loves that individual more than you do. Allah only can give that individual the wishes and yearnings and wants that will make him or her happy, not you. And thirdly, Allah will make you happy. Allah will remove the sadness and griefs for eternity from your hearts and souls and minds. I think I'll just give it more like something for you can do rather than give the theory. Something that you can do to become a more patient person. Yeah? So, dua. Call Allah to remove the grief. Call Allah to remove the sadness. Call Allah to give you the patience. If you can't utter with the tongue, utter with your heart. The Messenger ﷺ said that he is the stingy one who doesn't make dua. Why? Because through dua you can gain everything. Through dua you can gain everything. Right? So make dua. Second, go out and about. Go out and about. Go for a jog. Go for a bike ride. Go with your friends, do activities, do charity work. Go out and about. Don't just sit at home, right, and expect it will be removed, the sadness and the grief. Go out and about. There will be someone in your family, someone in your friends, or someone in the organization or in the charity in the activity, someone will make you laugh, someone will make you happy, someone you'll find comfort in to speak, right? So go out and about. Number 3, speak to someone, be it a scholar, be it a leader, be it a relative, be it a friend. Speak to someone. Open your heart out when it comes to your grief or your sadness. You know, the Messenger, he spoke. When Aisha asked, when was the most saddest times that in your life? Sallallahu said, right? One of them was Uhud. Sallallahu spoke about Uhud. You know, he was saddened because he bled. Other times he spoke about Taif. Other times he spoke about the 3 years that the Quraysh and the Arabs boycotted Bani Hashim, right? And when Khadija passed away at that time. So speak to someone who you can, in detailed manner, right? You can express your emotions. Do not suffer silently. And obviously I do counseling. I always say to brothers and sisters, mental health is in the rise because we are not speaking to the people who can actually help us and support us, right? So we need to speak to people in detailed manner to get rid of these negative emotions and negative feelings, or prolonged negative feelings. So speak to someone. Lastly, and most importantly, this is most important, is if you have money, donate. Donate with the intention of removing the grief and sadness and sorrows of people who are going through more sadness and sorrows from yourself. Trust me, that is one of the greatest way to remove your sadness and sorrows, is donate money. If you don't have money, if you're young and you don't have money, then do charity work, do voluntary work. Go out there. There's so many charities out there, humanitarian charities. There's so many voluntary organizations out there. You can go and volunteer yourself. Or there's so many masjids out there that take volunteers. So many organizations that take volunteers. Volunteer yourself. Voluntary work will slowly but surely remove these sadness and sorrows and griefs, inshallah ta'ala.